Okay, so getting into the origin of Tombstone with today's comic book video, one of the many Spider-Man villains, we pick up with Spectacular Spider-Man number 139. Now, with that being said, we pick up with Spider-Man. Now, Spider-Man is dodging a sniper bullet, and the reason why he's here right now dodging this sniper bullet in front of the Daily Bugle is because 15 minutes ago, he was actually called by Robbie Robertson to come by to the Daily Bugle as Peter Parker. And Peter Parker, of course, changed into his Spider-Man outfit to swing over to the Daily Bugle. But right when he got near the Daily Bugle, a sniper shot at him and Spider-Man dodged the bullet. And now we see Spider-Man going after the sniper. Now, when Spider-Man is able to catch up with the sniper and begin the process of actually interrogating the sniper, that is the moment you have the sniper tell Spider-Man that he was not the target. The actual target was Robert Robertson. Of course, the same person that had called Peter Parker up earlier. Spider-Man just got in the way of the shot, and luckily Spider-Man dodged the bullet. But now the big question is now, why did Robbie Robertson want to talk to Peter Parker so bad for? And also, why was the sniper trying to kill Robbie Robertson? What kind of story is he working on at the moment? Because when it comes to Robbie Robertson, he works at the Daily Bugle. He's second in charge after J. Jonah Jameson. Now, you do have Spider-Man swing into the office of Robbie Robertson, but when he does that, Robbie Robertson is not there, which is very strange because Robbie was the one who called up Peter Parker to meet Robbie at his office. And so Peter Parker, who's Spider-Man right now, is wondering, why in the world would Robbie call up me, Peter Parker, but not be here to greet me? But that is the moment you have Peter Parker find a tape left behind by Robbie Robertson for only Peter Parker to hear. And that is the moment you have Robbie say on the tape that apparently he had the ability to lock up Tombstone 20 years ago. But something happened where he was unable to actually do it. And with that, many people had died by the hands of Tombstone. And so now is Spider-Man wondering, what is Robbie Robertson talking about? But before he is able to continue to listen to the tape, that is the moment you have J. Jonah Jameson about to walk into the office. So Spider-Man takes the tape and swings out the window to listen to it later on. Now, we do pick up with a character known as the Arranger. Now, the Arranger basically works for the Kingpin, but right now with the Arranger is also Tombstone himself, because at this point in Marvel Comics, Tombstone is working for the Kingpin as well. And right now, Tombstone is helping out the Arranger, who also works for the Kingpin. Now, what the Arranger is doing right now with Tombstone is basically torturing a man known as Rayburn. Now, Rayburn has a mutant ability where he is able to persuade people to do anything he likes them to do. And apparently, Rayburn has been using his mutant ability to get some kind of money over the last couple months. And so with that, it's the Arranger and Tombstone telling Rayburn that he is going to use his powers to basically help out the Kingpin. Now, while you have Rayburn kind of going through the torture, that is the moment Tombstone gets a call. And the call comes from Robbie Robertson. And it's Robbie Robertson asking Tombstone to meet up at a certain park. And of course, for Tombstone, he knows Robbie so well. They know each other for 20 years. And so Tombstone's kind of like, okay, old friend, you want to meet me at a park? I will meet you at the park. But getting back over to Spider-Man, who has the tape that was left behind by Robbie Robertson that was supposed to be given to Peter Parker, you have Spider-Man play the tape. Now, when he plays the tape, it's basically Robbie Robertson kind of giving us the origin story of Tombstone, but also himself. And Robbie says that in this tape, he has known Tombstone for 20 years. All the way back in high school. But back in high school, even back then, Tombstone was a bad guy. He was going around beating up people to make them pay for insurance, for protection. But either way, Robbie Robertson was working at the school paper, and he was great at it, to the point he was about to get a scholarship to one of the best colleges because how great he ran the paper. But the next story he was going to write was about Tombstone in high school, how Tombstone was beating people up for insurance, for protection, basically a piece that's going to say how bad Tombstone was. But then Tombstone got word about that, and of course he beat up Robbie Robertson to make him never release that story, because if that story gets out, then of course that will look bad on Tombstone, and it could possibly get him expelled or also locked up as well. And so Robbie got so scared thanks to Tombstone scaring him back in high school. But the story continues on. But then the story continues on, where we pick up with Robbie Robertson after he had finished high school, college, and got married, and him and his wife had moved to Philadelphia. Now, once they got to Philadelphia, Robbie Robertson was working on a story where one of the many mob leaders in Philadelphia was killed, and trying to figure out who killed that person. Now, with that being said though, Robbie Robertson got a call from someone, and that someone told Robbie that he has information on who killed the mob leader. And so of course Robbie said, okay, cool, if you got the information, I will meet up with you to get that information so I can put it in tomorrow's paper to get the word out. Here comes the big problem though. When Robbie goes to meet up with that person is already dead. And of course he was killed off once again by Tombstone. Tombstone was the one to kill off the person who had information on who killed the mob leader in Philadelphia. And with Robbie seeing Tombstone, he freaks out. He's so scared because he remembered what happened back in high school, how Tombstone beat him up back in high school to stop that story from getting out back then. And so Robbie was so scared of Tombstone at that moment right there, years after high school, he did not write the story at all. Even though he did not have any information at all about who killed the mob leader in Philadelphia, he could still wrote that Tombstone could possibly had a hand in the death of the mob leader. But because he was so scared, he didn't do anything. And so Tombstone continued to go around Philadelphia killing people left and right. And it's Robbie Robertson saying, I could have stopped that if I went ahead and wrote that story back in high school or back at Philadelphia. But of course, I did not do that. And that man, who's now a killer, is going around killing people left and right. But getting to the last part of the tape, that is the moment you have Robbie Robertson tell Peter Parker on the tape that he plans on getting rid of Tombstone because he feels like all the deaths of the people who had died by the hands of Tombstone is on his hands. He could have done something many years ago to protect those people, but he did not. And when he heard that Tombstone is now in New York doing the same thing as he did in Philadelphia, it's Robbie Robertson telling Peter Parker and Spider-Man that he is going to end this. He is going to stop Tombstone here and now. And so basically, it's kind of like Robbie Robertson saying a goodbye, because if he does kill off Tombstone, he will go to jail. But this is Robbie saying, I must do what's right. I must fix my errors, and I'm going to do that tonight. Now, you do have Spider-Man go over to the Arranger because Spider-Man realized that the Arranger was working with Tombstone. And so with that being said, is Spider-Man making the Arranger tell him, hey, listen, I need to know where is Tombstone. My friend's in danger. Now at first, Arranger is kind of like, I'm not going to help you. But then he does by telling Spider-Man that Tombstone did get a call from someone to apparently meet up at a certain park, Battery Park. And so now you have Spider-Man going over to that park to hopefully save Robbie Robertson. But getting over to Tombstone, we do see Tombstone arrive at the park where he is confronted by Robbie Robertson. And this is Robbie Robertson planning on killing Tombstone to finally stop him, because Tombstone has caused so many problems in Philadelphia and in New York. And so this is Robbie saying, I'm going to stop you. I'm finally going to end all of this mess. And so Robbie pulls out a gun and he does shoot at Tombstone, but the problem is though he misses. And so that gives Tombstone the chance to actually grab Robbie Robertson, to squeeze him so tightly. Now this is not Tombstone saying, I'm going to kill you here and now. No, he wants Robbie to remember the night that he failed to kill Tombstone. And so by the time Spider-Man gets there, Tombstone is gone. But Robbie is on the ground because his spine was broken by Tombstone. Now, when we jump into Spectacular Spider-Man number 140, we actually do pick up with Peter Parker, being Spider-Man, swinging over to the hospital to check up on Robbie Robertson, where you have Spider-Man change into Peter Parker's outfit to go inside the hospital. Now, when he goes inside, of course, you do have Ben Urich, another reporter at the Daily Bugle, a close friend of Peter Parker and also Robbie Robertson, tell Peter Parker that, hey, it looks bad for Robbie, that there is a possibility that he may never walk again. And that right there is huge to say, because Tombstone did apparently almost completely destroyed Robbie Robertson's spine. Now, while you have Ben Urich and Peter Parker walking outside the hospital, that is the moment you have Ben Urich ask Peter Parker, hey, do you know why Robbie called you? While I was leaving the office, I walked by his office and I heard him call you and tell you to come over to the office. Why? Why did he call you? Now, Peter Parker knows because, well, he has the tape. But of course, Peter Parker feels like he should not tell Ben Urich. And so he tells Ben he has no idea and he walks away. Now, we actually do pick back up with Robbie Robertson in his hospital room where he is confronted by Tombstone. Now, this is Tombstone basically telling Robbie, hey, listen, you may think that I will leave you alone now, back off now because I broke your spine and you're in here laying in this hospital bed almost paralyzed. But I came here to terrorize you, to make you realize that no one can stop me. And that means I can go after your wife, your son, and even come after you and kill you. And so basically it's Tombstone putting the fear back into Robbie once again, like he did back in high school and back in Philadelphia. Now, we do pick up with Spider-Man at a random bar. Now, this bar is not actually random. Matter of fact, this is a mob bar, meaning that a lot of mobsters come to this bar a lot of times. On top of that, a lot of contracts are sent out from this bar right here. So anytime someone needs someone killed off, they will take that contract to the bar and an assassin will come to that bar to get that contract. And so Spider-Man's coming to this bar to figure out who hired that assassin at the very beginning of our video. Because remember, there was that sniper and that sniper was hired to kill off Robbie Robertson, but Spider-Man got in the way. And so this is Spider-Man trying to figure out who hired the sniper. Now, of course, he does figure out it was Tombstone who had hired the sniper. But now the question is, where is Tombstone? Where can Spider-Man actually find Tombstone at? Now, while Spider-Man is getting the information he needs from the bartender, that is the moment one of the many mobsters in the bar is about to shoot Spider-Man. Now remember, when it comes to Spider-Man, he does have his spider sense, and so he's able to easily dodge this bullet. But right before the shooter is able to shoot at Spider-Man, someone else shoots the shooter. And so now Spider-Man's wondering, who in the world is trying to help me out? But by the time he gets outside the bar to look for that shooter is long gone. And so now Spider-Man's wondering if there is a third player in this mess that he's in at the moment. Now, you do have Spider-Man actually go over to see the Arranger. Now remember, the Arranger is somebody who works for the Kingpin, but Tombstone also works for the Kingpin. And the Arranger and Tombstone were trying to get a mutant known as Rayburn to work for them. And so this is Spider-Man coming over to the Arranger, knowing that the Arranger must have an idea on where in the world Tombstone could be at. But of course, the Arranger is kind of like, I'm not going to tell you. One, because my boss is a Kingpin, and two, I want to protect Tombstone because he actually likes Tombstone. And so this is Spider-Man realizing that he has run into a dead end. And so now he must find a different way to find Tombstone and actually get revenge for Robbie Robertson. Now, once Spider-Man has left the office of the Arranger, you do have the Arranger go into another room, a secret room. And in this room is where he's holding Rayburn at. Now remember, Rayburn has the mutant ability to influence people to make them do almost anything he wants them to do. And so with that being said, it's the Arranger, Kingpin, and Tombstone trying to use this mutant as a way to complete some kind of special mission. Now, once the Arranger has walked into the room, so has Tombstone. And that is the moment you have Tombstone say that their actual target is in the city, because apparently he was seen helping to protect Spider-Man earlier. And remember, when Spider-Man was at that bar and he was about to get shot, somebody shot the other shooter who was going to shoot Spider-Man. But Spider-Man has no idea who saved his life. Well, apparently the person that has saved the life of Spider-Man is the actual target that Tombstone wants to get rid of. And apparently Tombstone and the Arranger have been working on getting rid of that person. And the big question is now, who is that person? But getting back over to Peter Parker, we do see Peter Parker going back to the hospital to check up on Robbie Robertson. And also, this is the book reminding us that Peter Parker and Mary Jane are married at this point in Marvel Comics. But either way, once Peter Parker and Mary Jane arrive at the hospital and go into the room, you do have Robbie ask his wife and Mary Jane to leave so that he can talk to Peter Parker alone. And of course, to talk about the tape. Now, this is Peter Parker thinking that Robbie wants Peter to do something special with the tape to get the word out about Tombstone. But that is the moment you have Robbie say, burn the tape. Just burn it and get rid of it. I do not want that tape to get out. And the reason why, because Tombstone has literally scared this man to death. He is afraid if that tape does get out, Tombstone will come after his wife and his son. Is Robbie trying to protect his family from Tombstone? And he's telling Peter Parker to get rid of the tape. And so while Peter Parker and Mary Jane are walking away and Peter Parker is wondering what he should do with the tape, we come to find out the same person that had saved Spider-Man earlier was hiding out in a hospital closet, and he heard about the tape that Robbie made that could possibly lock up Tombstone. Now, when Peter Parker gets back to the Daily Bugle, that is the moment you have Ben Urich hand Peter Parker a note that was left behind to tell Peter Parker to call a certain number, which of course Peter Parker does. But when he does, we come to find out it is our mysterious character that has saved Spider-Man's life earlier, but was also hiding out in the hospital. And it's him asking Peter Parker to meet up at the Statue of Liberty. Now, of course, Peter Parker feels like this is a trap, and so he does change into Spider-Man and he swings over to the Statue of Liberty. But when he gets there, of course, he does see our mysterious character and he does go after our mysterious character. And so we do get a lot of pages where it's Spider-Man trying to chase down our mysterious character, trying to get to him and hopefully learn who it is. But once he is able to actually catch up to our mysterious character and figure out who in the world it is, well, that is the moment we come to find out it is the Punisher. Apparently, the Punisher is right now going after Tombstone, which is a huge thing because the Punisher, when it comes to bad guys, he believes they should be killed off. which means the Punisher is trying to kill off Tombstone. Now, jumping over to Spectacular Spider-Man number 141, we actually pick up with Spider-Man meeting up with the Punisher on a boat. Yes, a boat, because apparently the Punisher owns a boat. But with that being said, you actually have the Punisher explaining to Spider-Man why in the world he's here right now in New York coming after Tombstone. And that is the moment you have the Punisher tell Spider-Man the reason why, because Tombstone had killed a close friend of the Punisher. And so with that being said, the Punisher is kind of like, well, you killed my friend, so now you have to die. And so basically it's the Punisher coming after Tombstone to get revenge for the death of his friend. Now remember, Tombstone knows that the Punisher is after him, and so Tombstone is right now actually sticking out the boat, watching the Punisher kind of have fun on the boat, waiting for the right time to attack. Now, Tombstone has no idea that Spider-Man is on the boat, but of course, Tombstone wants to kill off the Punisher. Now, you do have the Punisher explain to Spider-Man that he has been watching over both Spider-Man and Peter Parker, but with him watching over both characters, because the Punisher has no idea that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, but with the Punisher watching over both characters, the Punisher was able to learn about the tape that Robbie Robertson had made that could possibly lock up Tombstone. And so this is the Punisher kind of asking Spider-Man to go talk to Peter Parker to get the tape, to use the tape on Tombstone. Now, Spider-Man remembers that Robbie Robertson told him, burn the tape, get rid of it. I do not want that tape out anymore. But of course, Spider-Man wants to use the tape, but he wants to respect the choices of his friend. And so you have Spider-Man kind of asking the Punisher to leave Peter Parker alone, but to also leave Robbie Robertson alone as well, because Robbie has gone through a lot over the last couple issues. But of course, this is the Punisher saying that sooner or later Tombstone must be dealt with. Now, when Spider-Man leaves, Tombstone, who is still sticking out the boat, does see Spider-Man leaving, but you have Tombstone also leaving, telling his guys to make sure to get the Punisher, and then he leaves. Now, getting back over to Robbie Robertson, who's in the hospital right now, almost paralyzed, he is greeted or confronted by Ben Urich. Now, this is Ben Urich basically telling Robbie Robertson that he knows everything, almost everything, but not everything. What I mean is that he knows that Robbie had called up Peter Parker to come to the office of the Daily Bugle, but of course, Robbie left, and when Peter Parker got there, Peter Parker found the tape that Robbie had made, and then Peter Parker took that tape and also left. And so Ben Urich knows that tape must be doing something very important with Tombstone, because of course Robbie went after Tombstone and got his spine broken. And so this is Ben Urich saying, listen, I know you're afraid. I know you're afraid that Tombstone could come back after you and your family, but you must do something. You must stop him. If you have the ability to stop him, then stop him. What are you actually waiting for? But getting back over to the Punisher, we do see the Punisher right now on his boat just trying to relax and make dinner. But the assassins that Tombstone had hired began their attack on the Punisher. But of course, the Punisher knew they were coming, and so he was able to take them out very quickly. But once he's able to take them out, that is the moment you have the Punisher asking, what in the world is going on? Who do these guys work for? And of course, they tell him that they work for Tombstone. But apparently they were not sent to actually kill the Punisher, but to make the Punisher follow them to a certain location. And so the Punisher asked for the location that where Tombstone want to meet the Punisher at, or basically set up a trap for the Punisher. And you have the guy tell the Punisher the location that Tombstone wanted the Punisher to go to. Now, getting back over to Peter Parker and Mary Jane, we do see Peter Parker asking Mary Jane what he should do with the tape. Now, for Mary Jane, she does not want to answer that question at all. To her, she wants to stay out of the Spider-Man life. because Spider-Man's life is too dangerous, too crazy, and she wants nothing to do about it. And you have Peter Parker basically respect that. Now, while Peter Parker is leaving the apartment building, we do see Tombstone about to go inside that same apartment building. Now, this is where everything begins to fall apart for the Punisher and Spider-Man as well. Because while Peter Parker is gone from the apartment, Tombstone is going into the apartment of the Parkers, of course, to go after Mary Jane, to attack Mary Jane so that Mary Jane can tell Tombstone about the tape and Peter Parker. Now, on top of that, remember, the assassins that Tombstone hired to go after the Punisher told the Punisher that apparently they were hired to lead the Punisher to a certain location. Now, to the Punisher, he believed it was to go to a trap that was made by Tombstone. Now, the Punisher is correct. It is a trap, but not a trap made by Tombstone. What I mean by is this right here. While you have Tombstone going after Mary Jane, attacking her, beating her up, you have the Punisher get attacked by the Arranger and the mutant from earlier, Rayburn, who has the ability to influence people to do anything they want him to do, or what he wants them to do, sorry. And so when the Punisher takes out all the guards at that location he went to, he is confronted by the Arranger. He is confronted by Rayburn, who has the mutant ability to influence people. And so you have the Arranger tell Rayburn to use his powers on the Punisher to basically knock out the Punisher. At the same time, Tombstone had attacked Mary Jane. Now, back at the hospital, you have Peter Parker checking up on Robbie Robertson, and you do have Robbie Robertson continue to show Peter Parker that he's scared right now of Tombstone. But that is the moment you have the nurse come in to tell Peter Parker, hey, listen, we just got word that your wife is now in the ER downstairs. You need to go see her. She was attacked. And Robbie Robertson knows that Mary Jane was attacked not because of Spider-Man, because of Robbie Robertson's life and him and Tombstone's lovely battle between one another. That now another innocent person was hurt thanks to Robbie Robertson. And so when we jump into Spectacular Spider-Man number 142, we do pick up with Spider-Man heading over to meet up with Tombstone to finally end it, to finally get rid of Tombstone. But the big question is now, what happened to Mary Jane? We were told that she was badly injured earlier. And so we jump right back in time, right before Spider-Man had left to go meet up with Tombstone. Now, with that being said, you do have Mary Jane tell Peter Parker that she is okay. She only has a broken hand, but basically Tombstone was looking for Peter Parker, and so that's why he went to the apartment of Peter Parker and Mary Jane to find Peter Parker. But when he couldn't find Peter Parker, he began to torture Mary Jane to learn where Peter Parker was at. Of course, Mary Jane did not tell him anything at all, but he broke her hand knowing that Peter Parker would meet his wife at the hospital. And that is the moment you have the hospital tell Peter Parker that he has a call. And that call is, of course, Tombstone. And this is Tombstone telling Peter Parker that they are going to meet up somewhere to have a conversation about the tape that Robbie Robertson had made, because Tombstone knows about the tape now. And so it's Peter Parker saying, because he hurt my wife and he wants the tape so bad, I am finally going to end all of this mess tonight. Now, we do learn why the Arranger, Kingpin, and Tombstone were torturing Rayburn for. Because remember, Rayburn has the ability to influence people to do anything he wants them to do. And so we come to find out why in the world the Arranger had brought Rayburn in. To basically use his mutant ability on the Punisher to make the Punisher join the Kingpin. And so now the Punisher is technically working for the Kingpin, which is very huge to say. But of course, now the Punisher must follow all the orders of the Kingpin and the Kingpin's top soldiers. But getting back over to Robbie Robertson, we do see Robbie Robertson right now back at the hospital being pushed around by his son in a wheelchair. But while that's happening, Robbie Robertson can see Tombstone anywhere around him. Now, Tombstone is not really there, but because Tombstone have put so much fear into Robbie Robertson, everywhere Robbie looks, he thinks he sees Tombstone. All that fear is in his mind right now. But this is Robbie Robertson finally conquering all of his fears. And when he does that, he tells his son it's time to call up J. Jonah Jameson, because Robbie Robertson has a story to tell, and he is going to tell the world everything about Tombstone. Now, we do get a page that is basically setting up the Clone Saga, the first one, because we pick up with Gwen Stacy right now being chased by some random soldiers. And of course, these soldiers are trying to bring her in, but she is able to get away. Like I said, this is a page that is basically setting up the original Clone Saga that we may cover down the road. I don't know yet. But getting back over to Spider-Man, you do have Spider-Man go to the area to meet up with Tombstone. Now, with that being said, this is the moment where the next few pages will go back and forth between two different settings. Where you have Spider-Man fighting against Tombstone, you also have Robbie Robertson telling the world the true story about him and Tombstone, basically admitting to the world that he could have locked up Tombstone a long time ago back in high school, and even after high school in Philadelphia when he killed that mob leader. And so this is Robbie Robertson having J. Jonah Jameson tell the story to the whole world. And so while you have that going on, Spider-Man is fighting against Tombstone, and their battle is a pretty good battle. It does go on for a few pages, but of course Spider-Man is able to win the battle, and while he's winning the battle, you have Robbie Robertson telling J. Jonah Jameson, had a hard time saying that. He's telling J. Jonah Jameson the true story about him and Tombstone to get the word out, to hopefully lock up Tombstone once and for all. And at that, Spider-Man does defeat Tombstone as well. And so it seems like a victory for both Spider-Man and Robbie Robertson. Now, to close on this story, we do get reminded about one more thing, and that last thing is the Punisher. Because remember, the Arranger used Rayburn, someone who's a mutant who has the ability to influence other people. He used that power on the Punisher to make the Punisher work for him and the Kingpin. And so now the Punisher is basically working for the Kingpin. And this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But I do hope you enjoy today's comic book video. Later, guys.